Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. It's gonna be a rough show today. The two stories that we have, not they're sad. Not sad. Are they troubling? They're troubling. They're troubling. But before we start talking about the news, I just want to say congratulations to Biscuit the cat. Biscuit, you are by far the most popular personality on this channel. This short video uploaded 2 days ago has well over the normal garden variety views that I get for anything that I do here. So you can see 1.3 thousand views, 1,300 views here. Once again, congratulations, Biscuit. You're just getting more views even as we speak. People are ignoring me and looking at you, which might be reasonable. Once again, congratulations, Biscuit. You've earned it through all your hard work and hours of being a cat. that education at Juilliard has really paid off. All right, everyone. So what's the name of the show? Wow, the name of the show, Minister Walks Away Without Getting Jail Time. I guess there should be a trigger warning here about sexual offenders, because this is a story of how a minister who happens to be a sexual offender, or a sexual offender who happens to be a minister, sexually assaulted a young girl and is walking away with no jail time, and walking away not even having to register as a sex offender. All right, I tried to soften the blow as much as humanly possible. I believe I've done my due diligence. Let's take a look at the story from the amazing Atheist. Links, of course, for the news stories that we cover are in the description below. Let's see. A pastor who raped and impregnated a 14-year-old girl will face no jail time. In 2008, a youth pastor named Jason Greathouse, then 24, moved into the Alabama home of a family with a 14-year-old girl. Greathouse eventually raped that girl and impregnated her. At the urging of her parents, once again, I'm going to say that again, at the urging of her parents, the two of them got married. It didn't go well, shocker, and they divorced a year later. In 2020, that victim, now in her late 20s and more aware of what happened to her when she was a child, decided to file rape charges against Greathouse. He faced up to 20 years in prison. To tell you the truth, in a just world, Jason Greathouse, the rapist, would be in jail, as well as her parents, for coercing a child, a minor, into a marriage with her rapist. But thanks to a plea deal crafted by his attorneys and agreed to by prosecutors, he'll spend that's nothing, nil years in prison, and face unsupervised probation for 2 years. He also won't have to register as a sex offender. Ladies and gentlemen and small furry animals from Alpha Centauri, I give you Christian privilege right here. Maybe it's evangelical privilege. I don't know. It's certainly white Christian. We'll just call it white Christian male evangelical privilege. Wow, that's a lot of syllables there. That's a lot of words. Story continues. Coffee County District Attorney Tom Anderson said Friday his office made the deal because there were extenuating circumstances that would have been allowed to be presented by the defense that very likely could have resulted in a mistrial or even a not guilty verdict by jury nullification. Let me tell you something about jury nullification. And maybe some of you already have guessed or know what I'm going to say, is that jury nullification is rare. And to say that you're going to give up on a case because you're afraid of jury nullification, I smell bullshit. Could it be that the DA just wants to get reelected? Right? Could it be that he just doesn't want to anger the evangelical community? Anderson said there are now issues pertaining to custody visitation that the defense would argue are the motivation for reporting the alleged rape many years later. The DA said potential jurors could have come to the same conclusion. Could have. He just didn't want to prosecute the case. That's what it smells like to me. What do you smell, microphone? Microphone smells bullshit too. Let's see, whether or not that may have been the case. The bottom line here is that a Christian pastor who took advantage of a child over a decade ago has been able to escape any serious consequences thanks to a series of bad decisions, bad laws, and a pathetic justice system. Hammett, I would humbly put in Christian privilege too with that. For what it's worth, the victim opposed the plea deal, yes, telling a reporter that the punishment was the equivalent of buying beer for a minor. She's not wrong. Greathouse's attorney even celebrated the victory with this tone-deaf statement. Anytime, I'm going to use my Mitch McConnell voice, anytime I have a client walk out of courthouse with a misdemeanor instead of a felony, I'm wonderfully satisfied, said David Harrison, Greathouse's attorney. I don't know if that was a great Mitch McConnell voice. I've been working on my voices. Mitch McConnell is just one of them, everyone. I'm going to check out the chat. Before we go to the next happy puppy dog sunshine story, see how everyone... Tesla Ranger, first comment I see. Wow, what's the statute of limitations? I thought it would be well past the time she could press charges. Goes by state. I'm not sure. They didn't mention anything about the statute of limitations there. The DA seemed to be more concerned about jury nullification. Yeah, the story just gets worse. That's right. What's up, Sammy Jenkins? Good to see that you're here. And Tobin Templeman. Yeah, the devil did make him do it, of course. Once again, I just want to point out that if I had a magic wand, have you ever been in therapy? Right, and in a therapy session, the therapist says to you, what would you do if you had a magic wand and could change everything? In this particular court case, I would have so much punishment. I'd have the minister being punished. I'd have the father and the mother of the victim punished too, in jail. What's up, Dee Parks? Good morning, John Hudson. Yep, Tesla Ranger. Hey, good to see you, Scott Duke. It is sick. It is sick, John Hudson. A 14-year-old girl. Phil Lister. Glad to see you here, Phil. I'm going to try to keep this. I'm going to try to keep myself in a good mood, or at least in not a horrible mood as we go through this story and others. Julie Wine and Reason. You had me at the reason. I'm going to stay for the wine. Good morning, Jess M. Big Zebra. Always good to see BigZebra.com here. Well, Phil Lister, you raise an interesting point. Why are not the evangelical people angry with the raping pastor? That's a very good question. All right. I don't know. I'm just going to go back to my cat for a minute here to make me feel a little bit better. Oh, look, little cat in big trouble. See, that makes me feel better. My cat's not here with me right now, but at least I can look at that picture. A little bit of zen, a little bit of centeredness here before going to the next story about this. If I'm going to tell you the next story is about the Supreme Court and police reform, microphone. Do you think this is going to be a happy story? No. With the conservative court and police reform, do you think that a conservative court would be supporting fascist police policies? Wow, that was pretty powerful. Well, you will not be disappointed then, since your standards are so low, as are mine. Your expectations for the Supreme Court at this point are in the gutter. And, Microphone, I've heard you say it before, in private, of course, that if judges have to go around the country to say that we don't suck, which is basically what they did before this term started, there's a good chance that they fucking suck. Microphone agrees with me too. It's going to be an angry show, everyone. Gonna be an angry show. Here we go. The Supreme Court deals a major blow to qualified immunity reform. In two opinions issued Monday, the court gave qualified immunity to several police officers accused of violating the Constitution. The Supreme Court on Monday issued two opinions awarding qualified immunity to police officers accused of brutality, overturning lower court decisions that came to the opposite conclusion. The court has thus prohibited the alleged victims from seeking accountability in civil court. The doctrine of qualified immunity shields government actors from civil suits if the ways in which they are said to have misbehaved and the exact circumstances surrounding the events in question have not been spelled out as unconstitutional in a prior court ruling. So some of you are going to say, do you mean that if an officer kicks me, let's say I'm just a victim and they're kicking me on the ground, it's almost as if the court is saying, if you didn't kick the victim in exactly the same way another officer kicked a victim and was found guilty, then you're scot-free? Then that's exactly what this story's about. I can't rant. I can't do all my rants at the very beginning of the story. We have to wait. We have to go through the story and do little rants. It can be a low bar. Previous recipients of qualified immunity include two cops who allegedly stole $225,000 while executing a search warrant, more than 24 cops who damaged an innocent man's house during a drug raid on the wrong residence, cops who shot children, and cops who used force against subdued suspects and those who have surrendered, not because their conduct was necessarily permissible, but because no court precedent had yet said the precise components of each case violated the Constitution. It's almost as if cops can do almost anything they want. In the first case, Officer Daniel Rivas Villegas responded to a 911 call from a 12-year-old who was afraid that Ramon Cortesluna, her mother's ex-boyfriend, would hurt her and her family. When Rivas Villegas apprehended him on the ground, he allegedly injured him by digging his knee into his back for 8 seconds. According to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, it was already clearly established law that an officer violates the Fourth Amendment when he acts in such a way with suspects who were lying down on the ground and were not resisting, either physically or verbally, on whose back the defendant officer leaned with a knee, causing allegedly significant injury. So this might sound obvious, especially for people who don't live in the states, who have responsible police departments. But if you have a suspect on the ground, cuffed, they're not resisting, gosh, maybe you shouldn't be jamming a knee into their spine, right? Maybe you shouldn't be doing that. The Supreme Court disagreed, writing, there is no pre-existing court precedent quite similar enough to exactly what happened between Rivas Villegas and Cortesluna, such that the officer would have been on notice that his conduct was unconstitutional. I'm going to let you baste in that for a minute or two, everyone. I'm going to let you baste in the Supreme Court reasoning that if there isn't exact to the letter of if there isn't an exact precedence, that means it's okay. That means it's okay. That was the court ruling. That was only in the first case. Oh, there's another case too. In the second case, officers Josh Girdner, Chase Reed, and Brendan Vick responded to an emergency call when Dominic Rolice's ex-wife said he was drunk and would not leave the house. Upon arriving on the scene, the officers cornered him, Rollis, in the garage, at which point he grabbed a hammer and appeared like he might throw it at one of the officers. Gardner and Vic then shot and killed Rollis. All right, so let's just go over about how you de-escalate a situation. You don't corner someone, right? You might want to control their movements, but if they're in a garage in a closed-in area and there's nowhere for them to run, what you don't want to do is corner someone, because that activates the fight out of the fight and flight. You want to try to de-escalate them. And yes, microphone, I could tell people that I worked with agitated and aggressive people for decades, to tell you the truth. And there are ways to de-escalate someone without having to physically restrain them. Or, you know, I never had a gun, of course, because I was working with people who had disabilities, right? But there are ways to de-escalate people without having to shoot them. And just because a man holds a hammer up doesn't mean you have to use deadly force. The most important thing you give someone when they're agitated is physical space for them to calm down. The closer, this is just like 101 de-escalation tactics, by the way. What you don't do is crowd the person. You don't crowd the person. The closer you get to someone who's angry, the more likely they are to escalate. If you yell at someone who's already agitated, more than likely they're going to just get more agitated. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit concluded that, although the shooting may have itself been reasonable, a jury could find the cops created the situation when they cornered Rollis in the garage, and that such a move violated previously established law. The Supreme Court again disagreed, declining to determine if Rollis's constitutional rights were violated, but writing that the precedents were too disparate for the exact situation at hand. Once again, we come into the basic principle that this court is using. This court is that if it isn't exactly the same as a precedent, a previous case, then they can't do anything. Then it isn't. Then, you know, obviously people can't sue the police then. Most troubling in today's decision was the court's reiteration that it is especially important in the Fourth Amendment context to find identical court precedents when examining qualified immunity cases. That standard is what has made it so difficult for victims of government abuse to have a remote chance of holding the culprits accountable, including, for instance, the mother of a 10-year-old boy who was lying on the ground when Coffee County Sheriff's Deputy Michael Vickers shot him. The cop was instead trying to kill a non-threatening dog who was a mere foot and a half away from the boy. Look, I'm gonna say it again. The Catholic Church cannot police itself. Wall Street cannot police itself. The government cannot police itself. The police cannot police itself. That's why we need strong citizen groups to audit and to keep an eye on these powerful institutions. Because if you allow powerful institutions to do whatever they want, they will do whatever they want. And this is what we get. This is what we get. While the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit admonished Vickers, it did not allow the boy's mother to sue for the money she lost to her son's medical treatment, as she was unable to find a court ruling that mimicked that nightmarish day to a T. The odds are bleak. Supporters of qualified immunity, I'm going to use my best sarcastic voice here. Supporters of qualified immunity often say that without the doctrine, state officials would be inundated with vacuous lawsuits. You can read between the lines that there would be an inundation of lawsuits, except they would not be vacuous. Such a theory contradicts reality. Without qualified immunity, plaintiffs would still be required to prove that the government affirmatively violated their rights before going to trial. Qualified immunity is only the second piece, which then necessitates that a victim locate a matching court ruling. And the Supreme Court's decision today is another reminder of why that process is a frustrating one. The justices specifically demurred at the opportunity to decide if the alleged victims here had their constitutional rights violated. We're told that they need to find the perfect precedent, and then the courts often decline to establish those precedents when given a chance. That's the Supreme Court we have here in the USA. We're running out of time. This show ends at 9:25, 4 minutes, and then we do the after party after show at 9:30. Someone in the chat's probably said, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. And of course, there's no ads on this channel. Please throw a couple of shekels in if you can. If you can't, then I understand, of course. But no ads on this channel, everyone. Well, Julie, you're right. These decisions are going to lead to people not calling the police when they need help out of fear of, I don't know, their children and pets being shot. You're right. You're exactly right. In fact, yes, it is common for certain minority groups here in the States to handle their own business, so to speak. That's code for not calling the police and just dealing with the trouble yourself. And that's how you get these kind of tit-for-tat tribalistic killings. All right, I'm going to just try to catch up with the chat before I'm going to have to sign off pretty soon. Well, 420 Atheist, someone has to set the precedent, but if the precedent isn't already there, then that means there's no precedent. You hit it right on the head. Okay, 420 Atheist, another question. So this might be a stupid question, Andy, but how is a precedent set in a court ruling if the fucking courts won't rule against them? It's almost as if, and I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to do the reference, Kafka and the Trial, right? I can say that. I think I have a copy of the trial somewhere in here. It does kind of summarize this situation that we find ourselves in regarding qualified immunity and the court system. All right. Yeah, right. I'm thinking about just making more cat videos. I'm just going to make more cat videos just to help myself deal. Casey Randy, hey. Good to see that you're here. And Dr. Osiris, awesome. Let's see. All right. So, yes, this is the link. The link is in the description. I hope I put it in the description. I believe I did. That was the one about the pastor. Here, that was our first story that we covered. My condolences for KCA Randy. All right, so obviously I did not. Wow, KCA Randy writes, bad morning. The son was robbed at gunpoint last night. Wallet, phone, and his car was taken. I've been held up twice at gunpoint. Not fun. It's not a fun experience. I hope your son's okay. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have the time to scroll down through all the comments here. But yeah, I hope he's okay. All right, need to smoke another fatty now. Well said, John Hudson. All right, everyone, I'm going to have to close out the show. It's already like 9:25. Thanks for showing up. A migraine, huh? I am lucky that I haven't had a migraine for at least 3 years. And my migraines they would put me out for a day. But in comparison to what other people have for migraines, my migraines are never that horrible in comparison. All right. I'm going to drop down the thank you video, and then I'll see you all at 9:30 for the after party after show for the open room. The link to be on the panel is in the description, everyone. Take care.
Okay, so the script is great, but we need some woke insurance. What, more diverse characters or
No,
what?
no, don't change the whole show. I mean, like, every once in a while, sprinkle in some woke lines here or there that'll cover our butts.
Cover our butts against who?
Well, Twitter, Portland, the gay community.
Cover our butts from the gay community?
I know how it sounds.
I don't think you do.
Look, we don't need to change the whole show up here. We just need some woke lines here or there. They don't need to serve the story in any way. It's woke insurance.
Well, if it's not serving the story, we don't need the line.
We can't afford to get canceled here, Charlie.
Let's add some diverse characters. Let's hire some diverse writers.
We also can't afford that. We're over budget.
You know what offends everybody? Bad writing. That hurts.
Just fix it. Action. All right, guys. Let's get the hell out of here. And by hell, I don't mean like a secular religious hell. I mean like a universal spiritual hell, if you will.
I think we should stay here and fight.
Are you disobeying my order, soldier?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
All right, guys, let's move out.
Cut.
Boom. That works, right? You don't think we're gonna get canceled for that? Oh, son of a... He said, guys, let's move out, right? Guys, let's move. He didn't include the women. Gee. Okay.